Good evening, everyone. This is Shira Wolfowitz.
And this is Savvy Clemens.
Tonight is Friday, January 17th. The time is now 7 p.m. Welcome to the 13th show of Phillipian Live, coming to you live from the newsroom. This week on the show.
Since we've come back to campus, there have been a lot of changes, one of which is the administration's alterations to prom policy, sparking a bit of an uproar on campus. While seniors in the past have often invited upperclassmen or non-Andover students to take part in the dancing and fun, the special occasion has recently been changed to accommodate only seniors. Stay tuned to see how students and faculty have responded to the unanticipated change.
While discussing prom policy revisions over break may not have been fun, Feifei Ross, class of 23, was busy winning the Southern Division in the MTNA Student Composition Competition. Keep watching to find out more about her winning composition, Glass Steps, and more about her work as an artist.
And next up, we have a back from break update. As we started the school year with a new schedule, students seemed optimistic. However, over the 2-week period of classes, day-to-day special schedules got a bit confusing. Stay with us to see how students and faculty feel now.
On a more exciting note, we also took a peek at our furry friends on campus. We checked in with the famous Charlie and Yukon to learn more about what the pups do with their free time on campus.
And joining us live today is guitarist Richard Tang, 22, so keep watching to hear his sick riffs. Our first segment tonight is all about prom. Before the break, several changes to this year's commencement weekend were announced, most notably the restriction of uppers from attending prom. Dean of Students and Residential Life, Jennifer Elliott, announced several changes to this year's prom students. Prom students received an email from the... Here are live reporters Enrique Shaman and Sophia Lee with the story.
Thank you. On December 15th, 2019, Dean of Students and Residential Life Jennifer Elliott, class of 94, sent out an email to seniors announcing the restriction of uppers and non-Andover seniors from this year's prom. In past years, both were allowed to attend prom, provided they were accompanied by a senior date. However, this will not be the case for the class of 2022.
In her email to the seniors, Elliott mentioned both shifting the date of prom until Friday, which is after juniors, lowers, and uppers will be required to leave campus. Dean Elliott explained how the administration is trying to shift the culture surrounding prom to be more of a celebration of seniors, as well as be more inclusive.
In more recent years, we've tried to think of ways of making it feel less heteronormative, more inclusive, try to be more thoughtful about ways that kids can really feel like it's their prom. And so that included adjusting sort of where the promenade was, trying to think about the width and the space so it didn't feel like you had to be walking in twos or in pairs. I know Mr. Capano and Ms. Cormier have thought about seating at the at prom and how we do those things, bus assignments and things like that.
While students were not consulted about the decision, student body co-presidents Shahinda Benassi, class of 20, and Sebastian Romero, class of 20, were notified a few hours before the email went out. The co-presidents had no input on the final decision, but did hold forums for students in response to the email.
So she sent an email to me along with the rest of the co-presidents, and she asked all the cluster co-presidents and Shane and I just to come and talk, and she essentially right there told us the faculty have been mulling over this decision for quite some time now, a couple of years actually, and we're going to roll it out. So she actually told us right before she actually sent an email to the senior class notifying them about the decision. She never told us about the process leading up to the actual decision making, but she told us that the decision had been made, and that was where we found out and where we came in. I personally, even though I understand the reasoning for it, I'm hesitant as to what's going to happen this year, but in the end of the day, if we as students embrace it and we're really working together to make sure that we can, embody this ideal, then we can make it happen.
The cluster co-presidents were also notified at the same time as Benassi and Romero and shared many of the same sentiments, believing that the decision, while upsetting for many upperclassmen, has the ability to bring many positive changes with it.
Because the cluster co-presidents had a separate conversation with Dean Elliott, I have a background and better understanding of the reason why. I think I'm better informed. They said a lot of what it had to do with being a more inclusive environment, and prom seemed to exclude a lot of students. They feel as if they couldn't be their whole identity going to prom. And I think those are valid reasons as to why they changed the policy, but I believe those same reasons should have been expressed to the entire student body so everyone could understand that, because I remember a lot of the students said they felt out of the conversation just because they didn't know the entire background story. Because it's not as if everyone was against the policy, but they just wanted to know why it wasn't made exactly.
My opinion on the case, I'm on two sides of this. As a leader on campus, I understand where the administration is coming from, why they made the decision that they did. As a student, however, as a senior especially, the year that this change has been implemented, this is the class of 2020's senior year. And so I know, and the cluster presidents know, that this change is going to have the biggest effect on our prom and then subsequent years. The hope that the cluster deans had is that in 5 years' time, the expectations for who was going to prom together would be less than what it was now, in that it wouldn't be focused around couples, it would be more friend-based.
Students have had various reactions to the announcement, but many have expressed their disappointment with the decision. Piper Drew, class of 20, released a petition online and on social media calling for the return of uppers to prom, and student-run Instagram page, PA Gorilla, posted several reactions to the email, garnering many comments from both current and former Andover students. The owner of the account agreed to give comment about their experience anonymously.
I think that after the decision came out, I was in the library, we all got the emails, and everyone was like, I don't want to say outraged, but straight up outraged. We were all like, I can't believe this came out of nowhere. I have no idea why they did this. This is the first time they did this. So I heard that sort of feedback, and I was like, yeah, I feel like I can make an educated guess on what people are feeling right now. So I also had contributions from my co-head from Beyond the Grave. He no longer goes here. We miss you. So a lot of those memes came from him too, which is interesting. I think he could sense the frustration and disappointment by not even going here. He was still receiving that feedback.
Yeah.
While many students are not supportive of the change in policy, the general student reaction is mixed. Although many students are disappointed and confused about the nature of the decision, some students actually support the change.
I don't really care about prom, personally, just because it's so much money, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to afford it, which is a whole discussion in itself. But then I started thinking about it more, and I just think that and I said this at the meeting that they had after that the student council members hosted, but I just think it's kind of dumb for them to use this as their fix for just the general aggression that a lot of people have on campus when it comes to proposals.
I think there really isn't a need to restrict prom to strictly the senior class, because a lot of prom is sort of something to go with, and that someone would be someone you cherish a lot of memories with, and that person does not necessarily have to be within the senior class. And I think prom is the time to express gratitude and spend some time together with that person. And so I think this restriction really takes away the meaning of prom for, I think, not just me, but for a lot of people.
I'm not that upset about it because I know no matter what, seniors are going to have a really fun time, and uppers will have their time to shine.
I'm a little upset about it just because I think uppers are a really big part of my life here. But I also think that they will get their time next year, and it's unfortunate that this happened this year, but it'll be fun.
Get a 2020.
The administration is aware of the wide spectrum of reactions and hopes that students will grow to appreciate the positives that this change may bring.
I am sorry for the kids who are feeling really bummed about this, and I imagine the conversation will continue. Some kids felt really strongly about it. The PA Gorilla obviously had some choice things to say. And some posts, yeah. And that's a little bit to be expected whenever you're involved with a decision that's unpopular with kids. I do hope this ultimately will feel like something that students are excited about. That's the aim. It's actually to take care of them and do something for them. It's not to penalize anyone. My one, solace when I hear a lot of the criticism is we will make next year's prom for this year's current uppers. We'll try to do our best to make next year's prom really special for them. So that feels better than, sorry, no prom for you.
Enrique Shimon
and Sophia Lee reporting.
Thank you, Enrique and Sophia. Next up,
we have Feifei Ross, who was recently awarded the winner of the Southern Division in the MTNA Student Composition Competitions and will advance to the national level. Additionally, she received the honor to perform at the Winners Concert at the MTNA National Conference in Chicago, Illinois. Here is live reporter Emma Fu with the story.
Thank you. Titled Glass Steps, Ross wrote her winning composition herself and performed it on solo piano. With the tempo marking described as shards in the wind, this piece is composed using a series of unique chords. When Ross received the news of her award, she was surprised because she had entered this competition 4 times in the past. According to Ross, she kept entering each year to see how far she could go, and this year she was able to win.
I remember the day I came up with the concept part, I was literally just messing on the piano and I was trying to write a piece with chords that people probably didn't know or hadn't heard before, and I just hit this one chord and I thought, that's kind of interesting. So I built the whole piece around this one series of chords that I thought probably most people hadn't created before.
Ross is a musician with both perfect pitch and synesthesia, a harmless cognitive phenomenon that allows her to see colors when she hears music. She uses both of these skills to establish the various moods and tones of songs. According to her friend Emily Boone, class of 23, Ross is able to visualize colors from dark blue to pale yellow.
Most of everything I write is kind of dreamy, I guess. I don't know. Just things I see and feelings I have and colors a lot, in the music. Sometimes I think I want to write a song that's pale blue, and I try to figure out how to do that. So.
Dakota Chang, class of 23, another close friend of Ross, admires her love of music. According to Chang, Ross is always very focused on her music while she composes, adding that Ross's compositions have a unique style, new and different from the regular American pop style.
She really likes music because you can see that whenever she plays a song, she's really into that and she focuses a lot, and she just gets into this whole mode where she just is completely submerged into the music.
Something that Ross does share in common with mainstream singers and songwriters is that she enjoys writing pieces about her personal experiences. Unlike classical pieces like Glass Steps, Ross takes advantage of lyrics to incorporate herself into her songs. Ross also has the ability to compose very quickly, which never fails to amaze her friends, including Chang.
I feel especially for the songs that she writes, she has a certain style, and it's I wouldn't say it's soft, it's not those really fast songs, you know. Faye's songs aren't really those those typical pop songs, and it's nice. I feel because it doesn't really follow that completely mainstream style.
It happens a lot that she kind of goes through something some emotional ups and downs, and then she would just sit down on piano and then just play this new tune, and then everyone would be whoa, that's so good. And then she would be starting to writing some lyrics and all that, and then 10 minutes later you would just have this whole song here that's really good, and then everyone's just super amazed. So kind of every time she goes through something, she just writes a new song, which is really amazing.
In addition to using music as an outlet for her personal experiences, Ross often composes in order to relieve her everyday stress.
I think music in general just makes me really happy, and it helps her sometimes cope with stress or things that go on in her life, and it's a really nice outlet I feel for her, and it's really nice.
Emma Fu reporting.
Thank you, Emma. The 2019-2020 year incorporates new calendar shifts around pre-existing vacations and scheduling, which has brought about a variety of opinions from students and faculty. We checked in with students and faculty to get an insight into those opinions, specifically given the 2-week interim between the Thanksgiving and winter vacations. Here is live reporter Emily Huang, 21, with the story.
Thank you. Each year, Thanksgiving vacation follows the conclusion of fall term, and classes then resume for 2 weeks before the start of winter vacation. The arrangement of these 2 weeks have to do with the purpose they used to serve in the calendar year. By their current scheduling, the 2 weeks draw mixed sentiments, especially regarding workload. Some students said that their assignments were intensified, and that the 2 weeks back did not give them enough time to adjust.
2-break period made so that a lot of my teachers either put a lot of work between those 2 weeks because they felt that otherwise we were being productive in class, or for other teachers they may have maybe waited about giving major assessments, but right when we came back the week after, we had a lot of major assessments and tests and essays.
The alternating schedules every weekday can look different, so it usually takes me like 2 weeks to figure out a schedule that works, but then by the time I figured it out, it was already like a weird schedule on that last week, and I had so many tests that I just like didn't really have time to find out what works for me, so it was kind of bad for me. For me, it was a lot of like running around trying to get my homework done, because I think it takes me a little while to get used to a schedule and to get into like a routine for like every week, because depending on like the club meetings that you have.
Since I like changed teachers for some of my classes, I felt like there wasn't really enough time for me to adjust to these new teachers, because since with the new schedule we're only getting like 5 or 6 classes before the 2-week session ends, so I didn't really get like a chance to like really connect with a lot of my teachers that were new.
I agree. I think there's not enough time to adjust, because like the teachers are cramming so much into your 2 weeks, so there's really like not enough time to actually like digest the information that you're learning.
In the past, the 2-week period was used for fall term finals rather than the beginning of winter term. The change was made to equalize the length of class terms.
There were exams during the 2-week period. That's how it was when I was a student, and so that kind of made Thanksgiving break feel a little non-existent, because you felt like you needed to study for those 2 weeks. At least that's how I felt as a student.
In our calendar conversation, we had initially, those 2 weeks were part of the fall term. And the fall term ended with finals during those 2 weeks. We thought that that was actually unfair, because it meant that the fall term would be longer in the number of days than the winter term or the spring term. And that impacted electives, that impacted like math courses, who had planned, ideally to have terms of equal length.
Other students experienced a smoother transition back into the rhythm of school, with fewer major assignments and a helpful gauge on the winter term.
It was kind of like a taster for winter term, because like you could just do like a 2-week push through, and you still got to like understand like what your schedule's like, so it's like good to like feel out what you need to do for winter, but it's like there wasn't too much of a commitment. Like you weren't here for like 8 weeks at a time, so you could like still have fun.
Overall, I think the 2 weeks back did give sufficient amount of time to readjust to the school schedule. Maybe every person is different, but for me, like usually after like this like 3rd or 4th day back, like I'm already like back into the swing of things, This year personally, it wasn't that bad. Like I didn't have many majors, but I did have a lot of friends who told me that like the last week was like even worse than finals week, because they would have like all their majors within like 3 days. So I know for a lot of people it was really hard, but for me it wasn't.
One alternative idea proposed for using the 2-week block was as a mini-term designed for enrichment activities.
I do think that these 2 weeks could be a source of a creative curriculum. There were conversations of perhaps having a mini-term or something like a D term, December term, and there are some other schools that actually do this. And use this kind of awkward 2-week time to do some innovative sort of deep engagement teaching. Some examples I have heard are students taking 2 courses in depth for 2 weeks. And so these would be like enrichment classes, and we would just be able to dive deep. I've heard other schools take trips during these 2 weeks. And there are like other complications also in terms of athletics happening during this time, and that schedule going on. But
the past half a year has also brought new opinions on the new class schedule implemented this year from students and teachers alike.
I thought that initially when we had those double block periods that it would be really unproductive, because focus and attention would be lost. But then I realized that with the longer blocks, especially for humanities classes, we can go deeper into the material and cover more material each class. So I feel like the new schedule is better than last year's.
I think it gives you more time in the winter term to do things. I also think 2 weeks is a good amount of time to do one unit of something, some topics. So for US history, it was a good place to do Reconstruction. It didn't necessarily change much for me, except that I was able to give an assessment that last day. To me, it actually benefited that 2 week period in terms of giving assessments fairly and not trying to overload students with too many on one day.
This year I was teaching Math 175 as one of my sections. It's a course in introductory algebra, but we had talked a lot about a desire to introduce some coding into that course instead of doing geometry. And so we actually had a wonderful experience. And so for 2 weeks, we actually allowed the students to just use a lot of creativity and along with that logic to create a game using a program called Scratch that comes out of MIT that was actually designed to introduce people to coding.
Jessica Guo, class of 23, has just one suggestion for improving the schedule and calendar.
I feel like the 2 week period is a little short. Might as well just cut all of the 2 weeks and just have a whole month of vacation.
Emily Huang, reporting.
Thank you, Emily. Whether you've been at Andover for 4 months or 4 years, you've probably seen the official West Quad North mascots, Yukon and Charlie, roaming around campus. Beloved by students and faculty alike, these two golden retrievers are most often seen at cluster munches, outdoor events, or laying outside Presky Commons. Here are live reporters David Oyang and Melinda Jang with more.
Thank you. Yukon and Charlie, ages 10 and almost 1 respectively, have lived on campus their whole lives. We talked to Martha Fenton, the cluster dean of West Quad North, and Yukon and Charlie's owner to find out more.
My parents always had a golden retriever, and so growing up, that was always a part of my life. But we didn't get Yukon until I think my youngest was 5 or 6, and so so they've always had a dog now as well. He's always been incredibly well received, and we lived down next to the daycare when we first got him, so he had a lot of little friends down there as well.
Charlie, on the other hand, joined the Andover family last year.
I mean, she another kind of energy. I think everybody, people were excited. It was a very last minute decision on our part, so it wasn't a whole lot of warning, so I think it was a fun surprise.
Fenton hopes that the presence of the dogs on campus will create a cheerful and homey atmosphere for the students. She believes that even those who don't own dogs will benefit from spending time with Yukon and Charlie.
I think, a lot of families have dogs, and so it brings, for those kids who are boarders, and I think it brings a sense of home, maybe a little bit. I think a lot of kids miss their dogs when they come to school. I think probably for me, I think that they have, in some pretty hard moments that we've had at school, I think Yukon in particular has brought, a lot of comfort. I've often had kids say to me that they just love having their quiet moments with Yukon, whether it's outside of Commons or outside of the house here.
They'd give off such a happy presence. Whenever you see Charlie and Yukon, it's kind of
Yukon and Charlie. Whether it be playing with them outside Churchill House on a nice day, or just a quick encounter on the paths, students recount how the dogs have positively influenced their campus experience.
They'd give off such a happy presence. Whenever you see Charlie and Yukon, it's kind of you just makes your day so much better, and it's just happier to see them.
I lived in Rockwell last year, so whenever I was walking to class, I'd pass by Yukon and Charlie, and they were sure to bring a smile to my face because they were so fluffy and cute, and they seemed so content in their lives, which made me just so happy.
Just having the dogs around, it just makes it feel more like home. Whenever I'm missing my dog, you can come over and pet them.
According to many students who own dogs, Yukon and Charlie are friendly reminders of the comforts of home. And for all the students interviewed, they just bring a general sense of joy and excitement to campus.
I think dogs around campus is great. I have a dog at home, and I really miss it, so it's good to see dogs on campus. They remind me of my dog.
I know maybe not everyone loves dogs, but I personally, Charlie really reminds me of my dog. And she just makes me feel so much more comfortable on campus, and it's really a home, less than a school.
I have a dog at home, so when I came to Andover, I left my dog behind. So having Charlie and Yukon on campus was a little reminder of home.
I think they're just
like a very like accessible like way to like relieve stress, like if you see them, because I feel like you don't even have to pet them to relieve stress. You kind of just see them and get that same like happiness.
Just dogs are just amazing in general. I was at a cluster munch and Yukon was just wandering around, and I don't know. I just looked at Yukon and I was like, that is one cute dog.
Additionally, Fenton explains her reasoning behind owning dogs and shares a piece of advice for current dog owners.
I mean, I think they're an incredible gift. I think they really change the dynamic of a family. But I would say the only advice that I would have is that the more time you put in, the more you get back with them. I mean, I think that they need to be, they need sort of structure a little bit. They need to know that they're loved, because they will always love you back.
Charlie turns 1 on January 21st, so be sure to wish her a happy birthday.
David Oyong
and Melinda Zhang
reporting.
Thank you, David and Melinda. Next up, we are so excited to welcome Richard Tang. A campus-famous guitar player, Richard is known for shredding on his Instagram account, Richard Tang _music, and playing at various student shows. Come on in.
Hi.
Whoa, how's it going?
All right. So, could you play a little bit for us?
Oh yeah, sure.
Wow, that was really good. Okay, how did you start playing guitar?
Okay, so I kind of just tell people that I was born to play guitar, but that's a joke. I guess, well, it wasn't my first instrument. I actually started playing piano when I was like a kid, and then I started listening to like a lot like old like rock and blues, and I just felt like I should play guitar.
Do you have any specific influences when it comes to your music taste?
My styles actually changed a lot over the years, but when I was younger, I used to play a lot like heavier rock music, but now I'm more like a blues and funk guy. So, but I would say like my biggest influences would be like Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jimi Hendrix, and Stevie has like crazy like say like classic Stevie Ray Vaughan like would be like. And say like a classic Hendrix licks would, like a classic Hendrix vibe thing would be like. Yeah.
Wow. You're so good at guitar. Have you ever performed on campus?
That's actually something I get really pissed about all the time.
Oh.
Because, like, I just don't get guitar gifts on campus. I think it's not fair. Because, like, yeah. So basically, basically whenever I perform, it's like me and my rock club. And we always talk about how G-Hop did us dirty, but we got into the ABCAP thing, so we're pretty excited to play next week.
Nice. Do you have a name for your guitar?
I actually do. So Stevie Ray Vaughan's like #1 guitar. His name is actually Lenny. That was his wife's name, and I actually named that after his #1 guitar. So the guitar right here, it's Lenny 2. It's like the main guitar you see on my Instagram. So.
You mentioned you have multiple guitars. Like, how do you choose? Like, what do you look for in a guitar?
For me, they all sound different. Like, every single guitar, like, it could literally be the same model, but it just, like, you just have, like, different connections to different guitars, and they all sound pretty different. They got, like, different pickups, different, like, wood, and they all sound pretty different. I got 5 guitars, and I have 3 on campus right now, so.
Why did you bring Lenny too today?
Well, it's just my main guitar. It's the guitar that I'm most connected with, so I just thought I would just. She likes to be played. That's all guitars. They all like to be played.
What do you like about this specific guitar? Like while we're on this subject.
Well, it was actually not this beat up when I bought it, so all the wears and blemishes on the guitar, actually, well, it was like a semi beat up guitar when I bought it, but this like whole chunk that's gone, actually, like I was able to like do it over the years playing gigs and stuff, and so it has a lot of story to it. So it's great. My actual vintage guitar, I have an SG from 1962. That one's actually really clean because I got it in Maine, in Texas. I traded my Les Paul for that. But so yeah, it has a lot of stories to it, and so like it's a Stratocaster model, and that's what like Jimi Hendrix and Stevie played. So it's probably.
And speaking of gigs, like how many have you done, or like what gig are you most proud of so far?
Like what's your favorite memory?
I actually played at this like Irish pub in summer. So I was recording my first album in Boston, and so the studio owner of my studio actually was a backup guitar player for the Rolling Stones back in like the 70s and 80s.
Wow.
So they had like world tours together, and so he was playing at this pub, and he's like 70 something years old, and for that whole week his girlfriend was actually like sick, so she had to be like hospitalized, and so he had to be there all the time. And so he was like, "Yo, Richard, can you just like cover for me for like a whole week?" So I did that, and it's funny because for half the week we actually didn't have a drummer, so we had to like play without a drummer. We had the other guitar player and me and a bass player, and we were just like singing like CCR and Hendrix stuff. And it's funny because there are like a lot of drunk people in the bar that were just like, "Oh, I know that lick. I went to like Woodstock or something," and my engineer would just like my producer will like walk me there every time, and he would just be like, "Yo, chill, like he's 16." So yeah, it's pretty funny.
So would you ever want to form a band on campus?
I technically do, I guess, but we're thinking about a name for it. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to give us a little performance?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Dropping your album soon. Care to
I
elaborate?
am. So it's actually my first album. I had 8 songs, and so I did 6 originals and 2 covers, and I did a B.B. King cover and an Albert King cover, and I did in Boston this past summer. So I'm basically done with like everything. I just have to take the album cover picture and copyright it. And it's actually not going to be out in the wild because I'm going to send it to like a vintage guitar magazine. I'm trying to like get an article written on there before I actually release it. So it's going to be a while.
Very nice.
But I got to stay tuned to it because it's pretty nice.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. Can't wait to hear the album.
And check out Richard's social media for more guitar clips.
Yeah.
All right, peace.
This week in the paper. This week was issue number 28, volume CXLII, the Phillipian's 14th full paper on the school year. of the school year. This week was Digital Week for the Phillipian, so make sure to check out our website at www.phillipian.net to see all of the articles published this week. In news, read about student retention, an investigation into the smallest senior class to graduate following the Andover-Abbott merger. In commentary, Ross Vieira, 21, discusses the importance of treating commons workers with respect. In sports, read about girls squash and Athlete of the Week Kennedy Njai, 22. Finally, in arts, learn about Rebecca Plummer, instructor in music and race car driver.
As always, if you're interested in Phillipian Live or the Phillipian as a whole, come find us in the newsroom or visit our website to join. Anyone can sign up to be a writer for any section of the print paper or a reporter on Phillipian Live and go on live on air to present your segment. If you're more interested in video, graphics, or live production, we'd love your help as well. Go to phillipian.net/join or email um@phillipian.net for more information. And that wraps up our show for tonight. Stay classy, Andover.